Hi, friends. So, welcome to day 5 of Gyan Group, and we continue reading the Courage to be Disliked book. And yesterday we read about how the philosopher says, according to Adlerian psychology, that the trauma doesn't exist in the sense how what is the purpose for the person to fulfill by living in that trauma. And today, so in the end, the philosopher and the youth, they say that instead of discussing about, they say that instead of discussing about a friend and his problem, the youth said, let me give you an example from myself, my life. So the name of this chapter today is the subchapter is People Fabricate Anger. Youth. Yesterday afternoon, I was reading a book in a coffee shop when a waiter passed by and spilled coffee on my jacket. I'd just bought it, and it's my nicest piece of clothing. I couldn't help it. I just blew my top. I yelled at him at the top of my lungs. I'm not normally the type of person who speaks loudly in public places, but yesterday the shop was ringing with sound of my shouting because I flew into a rage and forgot what I was doing. So how about that? Is there any room for a goal to be involved here? No matter how you look at it, isn't this behavior that originates from a cause? Philosopher. So you were stimulated by the emotion of anger and ended up shouting. Though you are normally mild mannered, you couldn't resist being angry. It was an unavoidable occurrence and you couldn't do anything about it. Is that what you're saying? The youth. Yes, because it happened so suddenly, the words just came out of my mouth before I had time to think. The philosopher. Then just suppose you happen to have had a knife on you yesterday, and when you blew up, you just got carried away and stabbed him. Would you still be able to justify that by saying it was an unavoidable occurrence and I couldn't do anything about it? The youth. Come on, that's an extreme argument. The philosopher. It's not an extreme argument. If we proceed with your reasoning, any offense committed in anger can be blamed on anger and will no longer be the responsibility of the person because essentially you are saying that people cannot control their emotions. The youth. Well, how do you explain my anger then? The philosopher says that's easy. You did not fly into a rage and then start shouting. It is solely that you got angry so that you could shout. In other words, in order to fulfill the goal of shouting, you created the emotion of anger. Wow. Isn't that a little it's uh, it's completely turning around the way we look, right? Like you in order to fulfill the goal of shouting, you created the emotion of anger. The youth says, what do you mean? The philosopher, the goal of shouting came before anything else. That is to say, by shouting, you wanted to make the waiter submit to you and listen to what you had to say. As a means to do that, you fabricated the emotion of anger. Youth, I fabricated it? You've got to be joking. The philosopher, then why did you raise your voice? As I said, the youth said, as I said before, I blew my top. I was deeply frustrated. The philosopher says, no, you could have explained matters without raising your voice. And the waiter would most likely have given you a sincere apology, wiped your jacket with a clean cloth, and taken other appropriate measures. He might have even arranged for it to be dry cleaned. And somewhere in your mind, you were anticipating that he might do these things, but even so, you shouted. The procedure of explaining things in normal words felt like too much trouble, and you tried to get out of that and make this unresisting person submit to you. The tool you used to do this was the emotion of anger. The youth, no way, you can't fool me. I manufactured anger in order to make him submit to me. I swear to you, there wasn't even a second to think of such a thing. I didn't think it over and then get angry. Anger is a more impulsive emotion. That's right, said the philosopher. Anger is an instantaneous emotion. Now listen, I have a story. One day, a mother and daughter were quarreling loudly. Then suddenly the telephone rang. Hello? The mother picked up the receiver hurriedly, her voice still thick with anger. The caller was her daughter's homeroom teacher. As soon as the mother realized who was phoning, the tone of her voice changed and she became very polite. Then, for the next 5 minutes or so, she carried on a conversation in her best telephone voice. Once she hung up, in a moment, her expression changed again and she went straight back to yelling at her daughter. Youth, well, that's not a particularly unusual story. The philosopher. Don't you see? In a word, anger is a tool that can be taken out as needed. It can be put away the moment the phone rings and pulled out again after one hangs up. The mother isn't yelling in anger she cannot control. She's simply using the anger to overpower her daughter with a loud voice and thereby assert her opinions. So, anger is a means to achieve a goal? The youth asked. The philosopher, that is what teleology says. Youth, ah, I see now. Under the gentle looking mask you wear, you're terribly nihilistic. Whether we are talking about anger or my reclusive friend, all your insides are stuffed with feelings of distrust for human beings. The philosopher says, how am I being nihilistic? The youth. Think about it. Simply put, you deny human emotion. You say that emotions are nothing more than tools, that they are just the means of achieving goals. But listen, if you deny emotion, you're upholding a view that tries to deny our humanity too. Because it's our emotions and the fact that we are swayed by all sorts of feelings that make us human. If emotions are denied, humans will be nothing more than poor excuses for machines. If that isn't nihilism, then what is? So, to this, what the philosopher replies, we will read tomorrow, not today. All right? So, let's take a dip in meditation for 5 minutes, right? And close your eyes, bring yourself in a graceful posture, and just mull over what this means. Anger is an emotion we use to achieve our goal of whatever it is, shouting, asserting, making a point. And in a way, the philosopher is trying to say that you're above your anger, you're more than that emotion. And he's saying that you might feel that it is overpowering you, or you can't control it, or it's beyond your control. But in the real sense, if you really observe this feeling, it may just automatically dissolve because you see you're using it, bringing it up to achieve a goal that's in your mind. Take your own time. If you like, you may rub your palms, bring them over your eyes, and gently open your eyes. Welcome back. Thank you for listening today, and please do write your comments, your insights on the link on the on the comments in the on the YouTube video. And I'd love for you to share it with your friends. And see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.